In the hollowed resonance of the basalt nave, where the silence of centuries gathers like dust upon the golden leaf of the reredos, a single voice begins to weave the ancient thread of a monophonic prayer, rising from the throat of the cloister as a thin pillar of frankincense ascending toward the unseen vaulting of the sky. This is the breath of the stone made audible, the linear path of the news, tracing the contours of a soul that has long since surrendered its own will to the cadence of the eternal word. Alma Redemptoris. Mater. The syllables fall like heavy drops of crystalline honey into the chalice of the evening air, echoing the longing of a world that stumbles in the twilight of its own frailty, seeking the luminous threshold where the divine and the human first met, in the mystery of a virgin's fiat. The chant is not merely a song, but a physical architecture of sound, a wall of protection built from the vibrating air to shield the vulnerable heart from the arrows of the noonday devil and the creeping shadows of the labyrinthine night. As the single line of the cantor expands into the multi-layered architecture of the Catholic choir, the polyphony becomes a celestial forest, where every voice is a branch reaching for the unreachable light of the morning star. The harmony swells with the density of 1,000 prayers offered in the secret chambers of the catacombs, and the soaring heights of the Gothic spires, creating a tapestry of sound that wraps around the faithful like the indigo mantle of the Queen of Heaven. O loving Mother of the Redeemer, thou who remainest the open gate of the kingdom through which the King of Glory passed into the dust of our mortality, stay thou near us as we navigate the treacherous currents of the falling world. We seek the shadow of thy protection, not as those who fear the light, but as those who recognize that thy presence is the very refraction of the light of lights, softened by the prism of thy maternal grace. Beneath the arched ribs of the cathedral, the choir breathes as one, lungs expanding with the spirit that once hovered over the primordial waters. And in this collective respiration, we find the sanctuary that no earthly kingdom can provide. The music is a shield of hammered silver, polished by the repetition of 1,000,000 Ave Marias, a bulwark against the discord of the age, where the sacred is often trampled by the profane. We call upon the star of the sea, whose name is a melody in the midst of the tempest, to guide the ship of our longing toward the harbor of the great reconciliation. Let thy protection be the silence that follows the thunder, the coolness of the dew upon the scorched earth of our anxieties, and the steady hand that holds the lamp when the oil of our own faith begins to flicker and wane. In the rising and falling of the melismatic phrases, we hear the rhythm of the tides and the beating of a heart that once sheltered the creator of the universe within its rhythmic walls. The choir ascends to a shimmering crescendo of supplication, a wall of intercession that pierces the heavy clouds of our collective sorrow to touch the hem of the transcendent. We are the children of Eve who fell, and thou art the gate that remains forever open. rivers daily, through which the hope of the world continually flows. The protection we invoke is not a mere absence of pain, but a presence of purpose, a sacred enclosure where the soul is fortified to endure the transformative fires of divine love. Every note of this hymn is a stone in the spiritual fortress we build in thy honor. Mother of mercy, whose eyes reflect the clarity of the beatific vision, even as they look upon the weeping of the valley. May the Gregorian cadence haunt the hallways of our memory, providing steady pulse of sanctity in the chaotic thrumming of the marketplace. Let the chords of the choir be the woven fibers of a shield that deflects the cynicism of the broken and the bitterness of the proud. As the final echoes of the chant dissipate into the stillness of the sanctuary, let the essence of thy protection linger like the scent of roses in a winter garden, a quiet assurance that we are never orphaned from the source of our redemption. Thou who didst succor the fallen nature of man by giving flesh to the infinite, be now the guardian of our finite steps. The hymn ends in a low drum of counterpale peace, a foundational resonance that anchors the spirit to the bedrock of ancient truth. In this space of sound and silence, we are cloaked in the majesty of the Alma Redemptoris. May her find us where the shadows are longest, and lead us by the shimmering trail of thy starlight to the dawn that shall never know an evening. The protection of thy name is a melody written upon the heart, a sacred armor of lyric and light, that no darkness of the eternal word, Alma Redemptoris, made her find us where the shadows are longest, and lead us by the shimmering trail of thy starlight to the dawn that shall never know an evening. The protection of thy name is a melody written upon the heart, a sacred armor of lyric and light, that no darkness of the eternal word, Alma Redemptoris. Mater, the syllables fall. In the hollow of the hill, where the cedar drinks the sun in silence, two gray-clad figures walk the periphery of a promise long deferred, their footprints filling with the fine red dust of a kingdom that had forgotten how to bloom. They were the hushed prelude to the thunder, the narrow mountain path that leads at last to the wide and terrifying sea of the infinite Joachim, whose heart was a furrow plowed by decades of drought, sought the solitude of the high places, where the wind smells of salt and the bleaching of bones, offering up a childless sorrow to the architect of the stars. He carried the weight of a lineage that seemed to end in his own marrow, a branch of Jesse that refused to yield its green, standing amidst his flocks while the sky remained a sheet of hammered brass. His prayers were not the loud clamor of the marketplace, but the slow rhythmic grinding of stone upon stone, a patience that had outlived the youthful fire of desire and settled into the steady aching embers of a holy resignation. He was the quiet sentinel at the gate of a mystery, he could not yet name, guarding the silence of a house that echoed only with the ghost of a daughter's laughter. And in the secluded garden, where the terebinth casts a shade like spilled wine, watch the sparrows weave their nests with a grief that was both sharp and sacred. Her womb was a cathedral of silver and shadow, a vessel waiting for a drop of the uncreated light. Yet the years had passed over her like dry leaves over a threshold. She did not rail against the heavens with the bitterness of the broken, but rather offered her emptiness as a gift, a hollow space where the spirit might one day breathe. She moved through the corridors of her home with the grace of a woman who carries a secret treasure that does not yet exist. Her hands stained with the blue of the wool she spun and the gray of the ash from the hearth. Her tears were the hidden springs of Nazareth, watering the roots of a hope that the world deemed withered. A quiet stubbornness of faith that bloomed in the wrinkles of her eyes. She was the lone, the rich, and ancient earth, prepared through generations of fidelity to receive the seed of the woman who would, in turn, enclose the unenclosable. When the two shadows met at the Golden Gate, the intersection of their long suffering became the pivot upon which the history of the universe began to turn. They did not speak of the angels who had whispered in their separate solitudes, for their union was a liturgy of touch and recognition, a recognition that the long winter of Israel was drawing to a close. In that embrace, the hiddenness of their lives became the foundation stone of a temple not made with hands. They were the chosen cultivators of the rose of Sharon, the humble gardeners of the new Eve, tasked with the impossible weight of nurturing the one who would nurture the light. Theirs was the labor of teaching the Mother of God how to walk upon the dust she had helped create, of guiding her tongue to speak the holy names that had echoed in the void before the first dawn. They were the first to see the morning star rising in the eyes of a child, the first to hold the hand that would one day hold the weight of a broken world beneath the shadow of a cross. Within the small stone rooms of their dwelling, the atmosphere was thick with the scent of dried herbs and the fragrance of a purity that the world had never known. They raised her not with the pride of those who have birthed a queen, but with the trembling reverence of those who serve at an altar. Joachim showed her the stars and spoke of the ancient covenants. His voice, the low rumble of the mountains he had traversed in his exile, and taught her the rhythm of the loom and the cadence of the songs, her fingers guiding the small hands of the child through the patterns of the law and the prophecies. They were the invisible architecture of the incarnation, the scaffolding that supported the construction of the tabernacle. Every word they spoke to her was a brick in the wall of her soul. Every gesture of love, a stitch in the garment of her grace. They raised the Mother of Grace in the shadow of the ordinary, hallowing the mundane with the intensity of their quiet devotion, never seeking the spotlight of the coming glory. When their work was done, they faded back into the golden haze of the past, like the morning mist that vanishes when the sun ascends the zenith. They They are the hidden saints, the patron of the quiet corner, and the unspoken sacrifice, whose names are carved into the very lintels of the house of God. They did not witness the Annunciation or the birth in the stable, nor did they stand on the hill of the skull to see the fruit of their labor offered for the life of the world. They died in the twilight of the old era, their eyes fixed on the horizon, where the first streaks of the new day were just beginning to bleed through the grave. They left behind no monuments of
in the hollowed resonance of the basalt nave, where the silence of centuries gathers like dust upon the golden leaf of the reredos, a single voice begins to weave the ancient thread of a monophonic prayer, rising from the throat of the cloister as a thin pillar of frankincense ascending toward the unseen vaulting of the sky. This is the breath of the stone made audible, the linear path of the neumes tracing the contours of a soul that has long since surrendered its own will to the cadence of the eternal word. Alma Redemptors Mater. The syllables fall like heavy drops of crystalline honey into the chalice of the evening air, echoing the longing of a world that stumbles in the twilight of its own frailty, seeking the luminous threshold where the divine and the human first met, in the mystery of a virgin's fiat. The chant is not merely a song, but a physical architecture of sound, a wall of protection built from the vibrating air, to shield the vulnerable heart from the arrows of the noonday devil and the creeping shadows of the labyrinthine night. As the single line of the cantor expands into the multi-layered architecture of the Catholic choir, the polyphony becomes a celestial forest, where every voice is a branch reaching for the unreachable light of the morning star. The harmony swells with the density of 1,000 prayers offered in the secret chambers of the catacombs and the soaring heights of the Gothic spires, creating a tapestry of sound that wraps around the faithful like the indigo mantle of the Queen of Heaven. O loving Mother of the Redeemer, thou who remainest the open gate of the kingdom, through which the King of Glory passed into the dust of our mortality, stay down near us as we navigate the treacherous currents of the falling world. We seek the shadow of thy protection, not as those who fear the light, but as those who recognize that thy presence is the very refraction of the light of lights, softened by the prism of thy maternal grace. Beneath the arched ribs of the cathedral, the choir breathes as one, lungs expanding with the spirit that once hovered over the primordial waters. And in this collective respiration, we find the sanctuary that no earthly kingdom can provide. The music is a shield of hammered silver, polished by the repetition of 1,000,000 Marias, a bulwark against the discord of the age, where the sacred is often trampled by the profane, we call upon the star of the sea, whose name is a melody, in the midst of the tempest, to guide the ship of our longing toward the harbor of the great reconciliation. Let thy protection be the silence that follows the thunder, the coolness of the dew upon the scorched earth of our anxieties, and the steady hand that holds the lamp when the oil of our own faith begins to flicker and wane. In the rising and falling of the melismatic phrases, we hear the rhythm of the tides and the beating of a heart that once sheltered the creator of the universe within its rhythmic walls. The choir ascends to a shimmering crescendo of supplication, a wall of intercession that pierces the heavy clouds of our collective sorrow. To touch the hem of the transcendent, we are the children of Eve who fell, and thou art the gate that remains forever. Open the porta saili through which the hope of the world continually flows. The protection we invoke is not a mere absence of pain, but a presence of purpose, a sacred enclosure where the soul is fortified to endure the transformative fires of divine love. Every note of this hymn is a stone in the spiritual fortress we build in thy honor, Mother of Mercy, whose eyes reflect the clarity of the beatific vision, even as they look upon the weeping of the valley. May the Gregorian cadence haunt the hallways of our memory, providing a steady pulse of sanctity in the chaotic thrumming of the marketplace. Let the chords of the choir be the woven fibers of a shield that deflects the cynicism of the broken and the bitterness of the proud, as the final echoes of the chant dissipate into the stillness of the sanctuary. Let the essence of thy protection linger like the scent of roses in a winter garden, a quiet assurance that we are never orphaned from the source of our redemption. Thou who didst succor the fallen nature of man by giving flesh to the infinite be, now the guardian of our finite steps. The hymn ends in a low drone of contemplated peace, a foundational resonance that anchors the spirit to the bedrock of ancient truth. In the space of sound and silence, we are cloaked in the majesty of the Alma Redemptoris Mater. Find us where the shadows are longest, and lead us by the shimmering trail of thy starlight to the dawn that shall never know an evening. The protection of thy name is a melody written upon the heart, a sacred honor of lyric and light that no darkness. The amber light of 7 o'clock descends through the clerestory glass, casting long and leaning shadows across the well-worn oak of the pews, where the faithful gather in the hushed gravity of the Lord's day's end. There is a specific scent to this hour, a mixture of extinguished beeswax, the faint metallic tang of the thuribal's lingering ghost, and the damp wool of coats worn by those who seek a final sanctuary before the secular week begins its relentless march. The choir stands in the loft, their breath a collective petition, preparing to weave the melodies of Magargil and the ancient echoes of the servant's heart into a tapestry that's the silence of the sanctuary with the noise of the world outside.
Here, the rosary is not merely a string of beads, but a rhythmic pulse, a tactile map of sorrows and glories that we trace with calloused thumbs, seeking the mother's hand in the gathering twilight of the nave. Will you permit the bending of the knee to be more than a ritual motion, a true descent into the dust where the feet of the weary rest, heavy with the grime of the road in this late hour? The Sunday 7 p.m. choir sings not for the applause of the crowd, but for the solace of the broken, their voices lifting the heavy weight of the servant song, as if it were a shared mantle of indigo silk. We are pilgrims of the evening, travelers who find our home in the cadence of a brother's voice and the steady resonance of a sister's prayer, understanding that to lead is to follow, and to possess, to surrender everything at the foot of the cross. The music swells, rising like incense toward the vaulted ceiling, carrying the names of the forgotten and the burdens of the heavy laden into the heart of the Immaculate, who stood beneath the wood of sacrifice with the silent, piercing grace. Between the decades of the rosary, the silence breathes a profound and hollow space, where the spirit of Mary's feet takes root in the marrow of our bones, asking if we too can say yes to the unknown and the arduous. The hymn is over the chasm of our own selfishness, a structural grace that demands we look into the eyes of the stranger and see the reflection of the Christ who washed the feet of those who would soon desert him. It is a song of radical hospitality, a liturgical embrace that defies the cold indifference of the city streets, murmuring just beyond the heavy bronze doors of the narthex. We sing of being the light for one another, not a blinding glare of judgment, but the soft, flickering glow of a votive candle that guides a stumbling footstep through the thicket of a Tuesday's despair or a Wednesday's loneliness. The 7 p.m. choir understands the exhaustion of the laborer and the quiet desperation of the seeker, for they too have navigated the complexities of the passing week and bring their fatigue as an offering to the altar. Their harmony is an architecture of mercy, built note by note upon the foundation of Magarjo's vision, where the servant is the master of love and the master is the servant of all. Each word of the lyrics is a seed planted in the fertile dark of the Sabbath evening, watered by the tears of the penitent and warmed by the communal fire of the Eucharist. We are weaving our lives into the mysteries of the Rosary, finding our own trials in the Garden of Gethsemane and our own small triumphs in the light of the resurrection, all while the clock ticks toward the midnight that marks the end of our rest. Let the melody be a balm for the spirit that has forgotten how to weep, a gentle rain that softens the parched earth of a heart hardened by the cynicism of the age. As the final verses of the servant's song rise to meet the shadows of the choir loft, there is a sense of a circle closing, a holy enclosure where the Marian devotion of the Rosary meets the active ministry of the disciple. We are being sent forth, not as individuals isolated in our own concerns, but as a body knitted together by the recurring themes of grace,